The emergency klaxon screamed through the cramped cockpit as Marcus Reed fought to keep his exploration vessel from becoming a crater on the alien world below. Sparks cascaded from damaged control panels, while the acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. His hands moved with practiced precision across the controls. Years of engineering experience guiding every desperate adjustment. "Come on, baby," he muttered through gritted teeth, pulling hard on the manual flight stick. "Just give me a controlled descent." The ship bucked and shuddered as it tore through the atmosphere of Zarian, a planet that wasn't supposed to have any intelligent life according to the survey reports. Marcus had been conducting a routine mineral assessment when unknown energy weapons had suddenly opened fire from the surface. Now his ship was dying around him, and the hostile planet was rushing up to meet him. The crash came with a bonding impact that threw Marcus against his restraints. Metal groaned and twisted as the vessel carved a deep furrow through the purple-tinged soil before, finally sliding to a halt against a cluster of crystalline rock formations. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines, and the acrid taste of ozone filled the air. Marcus unbuckled himself with shaking hands, running a quick mental inventory of his injuries: bruised ribs, possible concussion, but nothing that would keep him down. He grabbed his emergency kit and sidearm before stumbling toward the airlock. The atmosphere readings showed breathable air, though with an unusual nitrogen mixture that would take some adjustment. The alien landscape that greeted him was both beautiful and alien. Towering spires of natural crystal caught and refracted the light from twin suns, painting rainbow patterns across the purple grass. In the distance, snow-capped mountains pierced a lavender sky dotted with floating landmasses that defied gravity, but it was the sound of distress that caught his attention. Somewhere beyond a ridge of metallic stone, he could hear voices calling out in what sounded like fear and desperation. Marcus hesitated only a moment before grabbing his translator unit and heading toward the sounds. What he found on the other side made his blood run cold. 3 massive creatures that looked like a cross between reptiles and insects had cornered 2 smaller beings against a cliff face. The larger of the 2 cornered figures was clearly female, with iridescent skin that shifted from deep blue to silver in the strange light. She held a child protectively behind her, both of them backing away from their pursuers. "Please," the female called out in a melodic voice that the translators struggled to process. "Take me instead. She is just a child. She has done nothing wrong." The largest of the 3 predators laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The young ones adapt better to the mines," it growled. "Kroner Empire has use for both, but the small one is worth more." Marcus felt something primal surge within him at the sight of the child's terrified face. Without fully considering the consequences, he stepped into view and raised his weapon. "Hey, ugly," he called out, his voice carrying across the crystalline landscape. "How about you pick on someone who can fight back?" The 3 predators turned toward him with obvious surprise. The largest one, clearly the leader, bared rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Another surface dweller," it hissed. "This one looks different." "Unknown species?" "Human," Marcus replied steadily, not lowering his weapon. "And if you know what's good for you, you'll walk away right now." The creature's laugh was filled with malice. "One small mammal thinks to challenge Kroner warriors? This will be entertaining." Marcus smiled grimly as the 3 began to advance toward him. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Humans hadn't clawed their way to the stars by backing down from a fight. Shelter and understanding. The firefight was brief but intense. Marcus's military training kicked in as he used the crystalline formations for cover, his energy weapon finding its mark with deadly precision. The Kroner warriors were strong and numerous, but they relied too heavily on brute force and had never faced human tactical thinking. Within minutes, all 3 lay motionless on the purple grass, breathing heavily. Marcus approached the 2 aliens he had rescued. The female stood protectively in front of the child, her large silver eyes watching him with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. Up close, he could see that her skin wasn't just blue, but seemed to contain tiny flecks of starlight that shifted and moved beneath the surface. "It's okay," he said softly, holding his hands up in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you." The translator unit crackled as it processed her response. You saved us. Why would a stranger risk his life for people he does not know?" Marcus considered the question as he looked at the small child peeking out from behind her mother. The little one had the same starlight skin, but with hints of gold that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. "Because it was the right thing to do," he answered simply. The female studied him for a long moment, then seemed to come to a decision. "I am Zara of the Stellan people," she said, placing a hand over her heart in what appeared to be a formal greeting. "This is my daughter Nyx. We are in your debt." "Marcus Reed," he replied, mimicking her gesture. "And you don't owe me anything. But we should probably get moving. Those Kroner might have friends nearby." Zara nodded, but when she tried to take a step, she winced and nearly fell. Marcus caught her arm, noticing the dark stains spreading across her side. "You're hurt," he said, concern evident in his voice. "It is nothing," she insisted. But her pale complexion suggested otherwise. "Like hell it is," Marcus muttered, then caught himself. "Sorry, that's human profanity. Come on, I saw some caves on my way here. We can take shelter there while I patch you up." The cave system proved to be more extensive than Marcus had initially thought. With tunnels that stretched deep into the mountain, he found a chamber far enough from the entrance to hide their presence, but close enough to make a quick escape if necessary. Bioluminescent crystals embedded in the walls provided a soft, warm light. As Marcus worked to treat Zara's wound with supplies from his emergency kit, he couldn't help but notice how her breath caught when his fingers brushed against her skin. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him as well, and he found himself taking longer than necessary to apply the healing gel. "Your people," Zara said softly as he worked. "They're warriors?" "Some of us," Marcus replied, trying to focus on his medical work rather than the way the cave light played across her features. "But most of us are explorers, scientists, engineers. We believe in helping those who can't help themselves." Little Nyx had been silent since the rescue, but now she approached cautiously and tugged on Marcus's sleeve. When he looked down, she offered him a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. "For helping Mama," she whispered, her voice like tiny bells. Marcus felt his heart melt as he accepted the gift. "Thank you, Nyx. That's very kind." As the hours passed, the language barriers began to break down. The translator worked better with extended conversation, and Marcus found himself drawn deeper into conversation with Zara. She told him about her people, the Stellans, who had lived peacefully on Zarian for thousands of years before the Kroner Empire arrived to strip mine their world. "They take the young ones because children adapt faster to the tunnels," Zara explained, unconsciously pulling Nyx closer. "My husband tried to fight them. He ... double quotes, her voice trailed off. Marcus understood. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. The simple contact seemed to convey more than words could. As night fell outside their refuge, Marcus shared his own story. His failed marriage, his decision to join the exploration corps, his dream of finding something meaningful among the stars. Zara listened intently, her silver eyes reflecting the crystal light, and Marcus found himself wondering if he might have found exactly what he'd been searching for. Dawn on Zarian painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, filtering through the cave entrance where Marcus sat keeping watch. He had spent most of the night awake, partly from caution, and partly because sleep seemed impossible with Zara's presence so close by. She had eventually dozed fitfully against the cave wall. Nyx curled up in her lap like a small, glowing star. Marcus turned as he heard movement behind him. Zara was awake, carefully settling Nyx on a bed of soft moss he had gathered. In the morning light, her injuries looked much better, the Stellan healing factor working in conjunction with his medical supplies. "How do you feel?" he asked quietly, not wanting to wake the child. "Much better." "Thanks to you," Zara replied, moving to sit beside him at the cave mouth. "You have gentle hands for a warrior." "Engineer, actually, Marcus," corrected with a small smile. "Though I've had to learn to fight since joining the exploration corps. The galaxy isn't always as peaceful as we'd hope." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Watching the twin suns climb higher over the crystalline landscape, Marcus found himself stealing glances at Zara, admiring the way the morning light made her skin shimmer like captured starlight. When she caught him looking, neither of them looked away. "My ship," Marcus said eventually, forcing himself to focus on practical matters. "I need to salvage what I can from it. The communication array might be repairable, and there should be additional supplies." "It is too dangerous," Zara protested. "The Kroner will be searching for you now. They do not give up easily." "Then we'll have to be smart about it," Marcus replied. "I've been thinking about what you told me last night. If they're using your people as slave labor in the mines, there might be others we can help." Zara's expression showed both hope and fear. "There are others. Many others. But the mining complex is heavily guarded. And the Kroner have weapons that... double quotes, she shuddered, "that they've never used against humans," Marcus finished. "Different species, different tactics. Sometimes the element of surprise is worth more than superior firepower." As they made their way carefully across the terrain toward his crashed ship, Marcus marveled at how naturally he and Zara moved together. She seemed to anticipate his movements, warning him of unstable ground or pointing out the safest paths through the crystal formations. In return, he used his scanner to detect Kroner patrol patterns. His military training helping them avoid detection, Nyx proved surprisingly helpful as well, her small size allowing her to scout ahead through narrow passages, while her natural stellan abilities let her sense vibrations through the crystalline ground. Marcus found himself growing genuinely fond of the quiet, thoughtful child. At the crash site, they worked quickly and efficiently. Marcus salvaged what he could while Zara kept watch, their coordination improving with each passing hour. When she warned him of an approaching patrol, they moved as one, hiding beneath the twisted metal of his ship's hull until the danger passed. "You work well together," Nyx observed innocently as they made their way back to the caves, their arms full of supplies. Marcus and Zara exchanged a glance, both of them acutely aware of how right the child's observation felt. Somewhere between the life-or-death situations and the quiet moments of cooperation, something deeper had begun to grow between them that evening. As they sat around a small heating unit Marcus had salvaged, sharing a meal of emergency rations supplemented with edible crystals Nyx had found, the conversation turned more personal. "What was your mate like?" Marcus asked, gently, immediately regretting the question when he saw pain flash across Zara's features. "Kind," she said after a moment. "Brave, perhaps too brave. He believed that love could overcome any obstacle." She looked at Marcus meaningfully. "He would have liked you, I think. You have the same stubborn streak? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Marcus asked with a slight smile. "With the right person," Zara said softly, "it can be everything." The weight of her words hung in the air between them, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. When Zara reached out to touch the scar on his hand, a memento from his first encounter with hostile aliens, he didn't pull away. Instead, he turned his palm up, letting her trace the mark with gentle fingers. "You have scars," she observed. "We all do," Marcus replied, his voice rougher than intended. "The question is whether we let them define us or learn from them." Later, after Nyx had fallen asleep, Marcus and Zara found themselves sitting closer together, the warmth of the heating unit creating an intimate circle in the vast cave. When she leaned against his shoulder, Marcus felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in years. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Zara whispered, "thank you for giving us hope." Marcus pressed his lips to the top of her head, breathing in her unique scent that reminded him of ozone and starlight. "We're going to get through this," he promised. "All of us together." 3 days of careful planning had led them to this moment. Marcus crouched beside Zara on a rocky outcrop overlooking the Kroner mining facility, his salvage scanner revealing the heat signatures of dozens of Stellan prisoners working in the crystalline mines below. The sight filled him with cold determination, but it was the warm presence of Zara beside him that kept him focused. "The shift change happens every 6 hours," Zara whispered, pointing to the patrol patterns they had observed. "When the guards rotate, there is a brief window where the eastern tunnel is less protected." Marcus nodded. studying the facility's layout on his scanner. We go in quiet, get as many people out as possible, then make for the old Stellan settlement you mentioned. From there, we can figure out long-term evacuation. And if we are caught, Zara asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Then we make sure Nyx gets away, Marcus replied grimly. She's hidden well enough in the upper caves. She knows to wait 3 days, and head for the beacon I set up. Zara's hand found his in the darkness, her fingers intertwining with his. I cannot ask you to risk your life for my people again. You're not asking, Marcus said, bringing her hand to his lips and pressing a gentle kiss to her palm. I'm choosing. There's a difference. The past few days had seen their relationship evolve from mutual attraction to something much deeper. Stolen moments between planning sessions, quiet conversations while Nyx slept. The gradual building of trust and intimacy that came with facing danger together. Marcus had found himself falling for not just Zara's beauty, but her strength, her compassion, her fierce devotion to her daughter and her people. After tonight, Zara said softly, if we survive, what then? Your people, my people, ... We are very different. Marcus turned to face her fully, seeing the uncertainty in her silver eyes. Different doesn't mean incompatible, he said, reaching up to caress her cheek. Love has a way of bridging gaps that logic says can't be crossed. Love, Zara repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Marcus said, without hesitation. I love you, Zara. I love your courage, your kindness, the way you sing softly to Nyx when you think I'm not listening. I love how you make me want to be better than I am. Tears glittered in Zara's eyes like liquid starlight. And I love you, Marcus Reed. You came into our lives like a fallen star, bringing light to our darkest hour. They came together then, their lips meeting in a kiss that spoke of desperation and hope, of promises that might not survive the night, but were precious beyond measure. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. Come with me, Zara whispered, leading him away from the overlook to a sheltered grove where the twin moons cast silver light through the crystalline trees. What followed was a night of tenderness and passion that transcended species barriers. They explored each other with gentle hands and whispered words, finding that love indeed had its own universal language. Zara's skin felt like cool silk beneath Marcus's touch, while his warmth seemed to ignite something primal in her Stellan physiology. They made love beneath alien stars, their bodies moving together in perfect harmony, each touch a promise, each kiss a declaration of faith in a future they could barely imagine. When Zara cried out in pleasure, the sound was like music that resonated through the crystal formations around them. And when Marcus whispered her name like a prayer, she felt it echo through her very soul. Afterward, they lay entwined in the soft grass, Zara's head on Marcus's chest while he traced lazy patterns on her luminous skin. The sound of his heartbeat was steady and reassuring, a rhythm she found herself wanting to fall asleep to for the rest of her life. Whatever happens down there, Marcus murmured into her hair, I want you to know that these past few days with you and Nyx have been the best of my life. They are not ending. Zara replied firmly, pressing a kiss to his chest. This is just the beginning. I can feel it. As dawn approached, they reluctantly dressed and made their way back to the overlook where their equipment waited. The mining facility sprawled below them, an ugly scar on the beautiful landscape. But Marcus no longer saw it as an impossible obstacle. He saw it as the final barrier between him and the future he wanted with Zara and Nyx. Ready? He asked, checking his weapon one final time. Zara nodded, her own expression set with determination. Let us go bring my people home. Together. They began their descent toward the facility, moving like shadows through the pre-dawn darkness. Behind them, the first rays of sunlight began to paint the sky in shades of hope, and ahead lay either freedom or death. But they faced it together, and that made all the difference. The eastern tunnel entrance was exactly where Zara had predicted, a narrow opening in the crystalline rock face that led directly into the mining complex. Marcus moved first, his human-made scanner detecting the heat signatures of 2 Kroner guards stationed just inside. He held up 2 fingers to Zara, who nodded understanding. What followed was swift and silent. Marcus's military training served him well as he disabled both guards without raising an alarm, while Zara used her knowledge of Stellan physiology to ensure they would remain unconscious for hours. Within minutes, they were inside the facility. Moving through corridors carved from living crystal, the first group of prisoners they encountered was a work detail of 12 Stellans, all bearing the hollow-eyed look of beings pushed beyond their limits. When they saw Zara, hope flickered in their faces like dying flames suddenly fed oxygen. "Freedom comes," she whispered in the Stellan language, gesturing for them to follow. "But we must move quickly and quietly." Marcus marveled at how naturally Zara took command, presence inspiring the exhausted prisoners to find strength they didn't know they still possessed. As they moved deeper into the facility, more Stellans joined their growing group, word spreading through the mining tunnels faster than any comm system. But their luck couldn't hold forever. As they approached the main prisoner holding area, a Kroner patrol rounded the corner, stumbling directly into their rescue operation. The lead guard's eyes widened in shock before he reached for his communication device. Marcus's shot took the alien center mass before he could raise the alarm, but the damage was done. Emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the facility, and the sound of heavy boots on crystal floors echoed from multiple directions. "This way," Zara called, leading the group of nearly 40 Stellan prisoners toward a maintenance tunnel she remembered from her own brief captivity. "It leads to the surface, near the landing pads." But as they emerged into the central courtyard of the facility, they found their path blocked by a full squad of Kroner warriors led by a massive individual, whose armor bore the insignia of a war chief. His yellow eyes fixed on Marcus with predatory interest. "The human who has been causing so much trouble," the war chief rumbled, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "You have cost the Kroner Empire valuable resources. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." "Counteroffer," Marcus replied, positioning himself between the Kroner and the Stellan refugees. "You let these people go, I won't have to embarrass you in front of your troops." The war chief's laugh was like grinding metal. Brave words from one small mammal facing 20 Kroner warriors. 20. Marcus glanced around, pretending to count. "Is that all?" "I was hoping for a challenge." What followed was perhaps the most desperate fighting of Marcus's life. He used every trick he had learned in his military service, turning the Kroner's strength against them while utilizing the crystalline environment to his advantage. Reflected energy blasts, improvised explosives from mining equipment, even the facility's own automated systems reprogrammed to treat the Kroner as intruders. But even human ingenuity had its limits. Marcus was driven back step by step, his weapon running low on power, his body accumulating wounds. Just as it seemed the situation was hopeless, Zara appeared at his side, wielding a piece of mining equipment like a weapon. "Together," she said simply, and Marcus felt his strength renewed. The tide of battle turned as the Stellan refugees, inspired by their leader's courage, began to fight back with tools and equipment turned into weapons. Kroner warriors found themselves facing not just one determined human, but an entire people who had rediscovered their will to resist when the war chief finally fell. Brought down by Marcus's last energy charge and Zara's perfectly timed strike, the remaining Kroner fled in panic. The Stellans stood victorious in their own facility, free for the first time in years. "The ships," Zara gasped, pointing toward the landing pads where several Kroner vessels sat waiting. "We must leave before reinforcements arrive." The evacuation was chaos, but organized chaos. Marcus's technical skills got the ships operational, while Zara coordinated the loading of refugees. As the first vessel lifted off, carrying Stellan families toward freedom, Marcus felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had ever experienced. "Where will we go?" Nix asked as they boarded the final ship, the child having emerged from hiding to witness her people's liberation. Marcus looked at Zara, seeing his own thoughts reflected in her silver eyes. "Anywhere we want," he said, taking both their hands in his. "The galaxy is vast, and there are always people who need help." As their ship rose into the lavender sky of Zarian, Leaving the planet behind, Marcus realized that his days as a solitary explorer were over. He had found something worth fighting for, worth living for. He had found a family among the stars. Months later, as they worked together, establishing a new Stellan colony on a peaceful world, Marcus would often catch Zara watching him with wonder in her eyes. When he asked her what she was thinking, she would smile and say the same thing. "I am thinking about the day a human fell from the sky and changed everything." And in the evenings, when Nyx was asleep and the alien stars wheeled overhead, Marcus would hold Zara close and know that sometimes the best destinations were the ones you never planned to reach.